Hello folks, Scott with Dallas Paint Correction and Auto Detailing here in Dallas, Texas. If you notice the video of this the title of this video is liquid waxes versus paste waxes. Does it matter? Well, I'm about to tell you the truth. I'm about to perhaps shed some light on the truth of all of this. What is better, a liquid wax or a paste wax? Well, I'm probably going to be controversial. I probably have people writing below in the comments saying I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've been doing this too long and I'm exhausted. And I just want to shed some truth on how I know it, and based on so many years of experience, how these products actually work. And I am not shocked that even a lot of professional detailers don't know it. I don't blame them. My industry is not very forthcoming with a lot of information. There's no training involved to become a professional detailer. But whether or not you're a professional detailer, maybe you're a car enthusiast or somebody interested in buying a paste wax versus a liquid wax, and you came across my video, I'll give you my perspective. These are facts. This is how I understand it based on many years of experience. So here we go. What we have is we got to look at the different types of waxes we have on the market. About 85% or even maybe 90% of waxes bought on a retail level will be called a cleaner wax. This happens to say cleaner wax on it. That's pretty simple and easy to see it. We all have to be blind not to see it. Well, what does a cleaner wax mean? A cleaner wax means that most people in the real world, most people on a Saturday afternoon that want to wash their cars privately on their own, are going to take some type of pH neutral soap because it's all over the retail shelves. That's basically all they have. They're going to wash their car, dry their car, and pick up some wax and apply it to their car. The manufacturers are thinking for the public because they already know the customer is not overthinking the moment. They don't understand how it actually works. When you clean your car with a pH neutral soap, you are not removing all the contamination off the paint. I'm sorry, it's just a fact. There's motor oil, transmission fluid, coolant, brake fluid all over the panel from you driving in the rain, and pH neutral soaps do not break that stuff down and get it completely off the panel. Most people don't even know what a clay bar is. Most of us professionals do. We got to remove the contaminants off the paint before using any wax because we want to give the wax the best chance to bond to the paint. And if you got contamination in the way, the wax truly can't bond. You'll have all these weak links in the chain because the wax cannot bond to the contaminants on the paint. So what are they doing on a retail level? They already know the buying public is using pH neutral soaps. They're probably not washing the panel completely or as well as they should. They don't want to get into it. They don't want to create problems. And they also know people aren't going to use a clay bar, so they're going to give you a cleaner wax. If you're a professional, hold on, let me keep going. So you have a cleaner wax. Let's say this is just a daily driver for Mrs. Smith next door to you. She doesn't understand auto detailing, and it doesn't matter. She doesn't need to know. Maybe she doesn't even value that. She just wants to put some wax on the car after washing her vehicle. She didn't clay it. She doesn't realize she's got bonded contaminants. She's going to take her applicator pad with this wax and kind of rub it into the jar. She's got some wax on here. She's then going to go in here and apply it to the car. She's probably most likely going to use circular motions. Why? Because there's a point to that. You have to use circular motions with a cleaner wax, because it has abrasives in it. I have heard over and over again people tell me waxes are not abrasive. I'm sorry folks, a lot of waxes are in fact abrasive. They either have abrasives in them or they have chemical cleaners to clean the paint, or they have both, and most likely they have both on a retail level. These are great products if you know how to use them. So most people are going to use this in a circular pattern. A lot of professional detailers go, don't do that, it's going to cause scratches and swirls. Well, you have to engage the cleaners, the abrasives within the wax to be able to get them to work. So you put that on the paint like that, like Mrs. Smith would do. Well, guess what? Because Mrs. Smith didn't clay bar her car, the cleaner wax has abrasives or chemical cleaners in it that are going to try to remove some of those bonded contaminants, not all of them, but some of them. And she's going to rub it on the paint, right? She now has a pad that's contaminated. You guys getting the point? And now she's going to re-dip it into this jar and use it on other areas of the panel. Cleaner waxes, they're great. In my opinion, you have to be careful when you're using them in a jar. If you're a professional and using this on one particular customer's car that didn't want a clay bar service, and you used it on that car, and then you go to your next client and you're using the same jar and the same applicator pad, do you see where you might be bringing contamination from one car, from one of your client's car to another? It's an important point in all of this video. You just have to understand how this stuff works. They don't talk about this. Most people on YouTube don't talk about it. They either don't know it or they don't want to touch the subject because it's controversial and people get upset. So there you go. Mrs. Smith now has a contaminated pad. She's going to re-dip and continue around this car. I'm going to remove this wax. I'll remove it with this microfiber. That looks great. That looks wonderful. I've got shining gloss there because Mrs. Smith did not use a clay bar to remove bonded contaminants. She needs a cleaner wax. If you tell Mrs. Smith she needs a $300 jar of a finish wax that has no abrasives, no cleaners in them, and she's applying it to a car that's contaminated or has scratches and swirls, you're doing her no justice. I noticed professional detailers going, I have a 300 jar of wax, I only use it for all of my customers because it's the best wax in the world. That is a complete injustice. I'm sorry. The car has to tell you what wax to use. You can't just rely on one. They're made there for a reason. There's different types of wax for different types of applications and scenarios you may come into. So what is my point? I'm not a big fan of paste waxes in a cleaner wax in paste form because you're constantly dipping contamination back into the jar and contaminating your jar. So what does Scott do to solve that problem? Well, on a retail level, Meguiar's is already doing it. They're giving you a liquidable form of it. You shake it up. You can put it on your applicator pad, right? And when you put it on your applicator pad, you can rub it into the paint, but guess what? You're never bringing back the contaminated pad back into the jar. You can't put it back into this tube. You're always applying relatively cleaner wax because you can't get this dirty pad back into the tube. It's liquid. That's how it works. In my humble opinion, folks, after 26 years, when it comes to buying cleaner waxes, liquid form is far better and more convenient than a paste form. It's just my opinion. Try to think that scenario through your head. I hope it makes kind of sense. And if you notice, on a professional level, why do we have products like HD Speed, which happens to be a cleaner wax? Well, actually, technically, it's a cleaner glaze. Then we have Griot's Boss Finishing Sealant. This lays a sealant behind, but it's abrasive. It is a cleaner wax in itself. Wax just means anything that covers, treats, cover, treats, or fills any surface. Women's makeup is a wax. It all is, anything that covers, treats, or fills a panel is a wax. This happens to be a sealant because it's more, I think it's more synthetic in base, meaning it's man-made engineered. It's not carnauba based. This happens to be organic based, HD Speed, because it's montane wax, which I think is a fossil wax extracted from the earth. It's a different form of wax, but it's organic in nature. Now, so hopefully that makes sense. When it comes to cleaner waxes, I like it in liquidable form, so you're not always bringing the contaminated pad up into here, up into your jar. Now you're walking around with contaminated wax. Is it going to make or break your world? Probably not, but if you want the truth, you want the facts, I hope I'm kind of shedding some light. I also find it much more convenient. Maybe it's my age, but I love a cleaner wax in a liquidable form, and that's why on most professional levels, professional products will only come in are the ones that are really effective are ones that come in liquid. They want you to kind of, on a professional level, engage the cleaners within the wax with the DA. And that's why we all love HD Speed, depending on how you want to use it. So that's my opinion. In a liquidable form, cleaner wax is really, really great because you're never putting contamination back into the jar. Now, when it comes to other forms of waxes, we have waxes that we call our finish waxes. We have waxes that are called finish sealants. This one by Meguiar's, which is their ultimate paste wax, it's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it. There's reasons for it because I find it like when you remove it, sometimes it likes to reactivate and you find yourself buffing it too much to get true shine and gloss. It can kind of almost like rehaze up after you've removed it. It's just my experience. I don't know if you guys are experiencing that, but it's a pretty good wax either way. But really what it is, it's a pure synthetic polymer. It's synthetic. It's not really technically a wax, because most of us automatically think of a wax as something that's organic, carnauba based. This isn't. But what's really interesting about this stuff, it really has no chemical cleaners in it, no abrasives like a cleaner wax. So you're going to reserve this for a car that has no bonded contaminants on it, maybe doesn't have scratches and swirls. You want a wax that truly is going to lay down some protection and level out the panel to give you more shine and gloss. So you're going to use this type of wax. But in my opinion, would I want to use a paste wax or a paste sealant versus a liquid sealant? Well, again, I like the fact that I'm never putting a dirty applicator back into a jar, so I like a liquidable sealant. It's just also more convenient. I can put it on a DA and get even coverage across the panel, and it's less elbow grease. It makes sense in my world. I'm getting old, guys, but some people say to me, well, liquidable sealants or liquidable waxes aren't as great as paste waxes. I try not to overthink the moment in the real world. I can't really argue that point. Do paste waxes give you more durability, longevity, and more shine and gloss? I don't know. I can separate this panel in half and use a liquid wax and a paste wax. I'd be willing to say most of us probably wouldn't see the difference. I have a critical eye. I just don't. Perhaps there are some times. I love Wolfgang wax. I like Pinnacle Series paste wax. Some great waxes give great shine and gloss. There could be on some level a little difference in shine and gloss, or the user-friendly experience may be better with some of those waxes. But in the real world of being profitable and working on people's daily drivers or your clients' cars, I just find liquid just suits the service. Now, if you look at Menzerna, this happens to be Jescar, which is the importer here in the United States for Menzerna. Menzerna makes high-quality products. Most of us are blown away by their compounds and the quality of their products. Well, they only make a liquidable sealant. They only make a liquidable, organic-based wax. These are exceptional products in a liquidable form. They don't even play the paste game. I love these products. They give me, the carnauba-based one gives me a little bit more shine and gloss. I like it for that. Paint sealants kind of lack in that warmth or wet look or really nice glow on the car. But what's really great about technology and the way these engineers are formulating paint sealants today, they're starting to bridge that gap drastically between a paint sealant and wax, giving us better protection than a wax and giving us the shine and gloss that a wax would typically give us. And when I say wax, I mean an organic wax. So I just wanted to make a quick video on what's more important, what's more efficient, what's going to give you better durability, longevity, what makes more sense. Well, in a cleaner wax, I like the liquidable form, and most professionals are buying it that way anyway, like HD Speed, Griot's finishing sealant, or maybe you like McGee's 37 all-in-one. They're all in liquidable forms because professional detailers know we like to use a DA with it to really get some nice shine and gloss and engage those cleaners within those all-in-ones or cleaner waxes to give some nice shine and gloss. But for those that are living in the real world, they're not hiring a professional detailer, they've got contamination on the paint, they don't know what clay bars are, they're going to want to use a cleaner wax. That's just the case. They're not in the business of getting a high quality finish wax or a finish sealant. They need something that's going to clean the surface. So even on a professional level, if you're a big fan of cleaner waxes, think about that. If you're using a cleaner wax all the time on cars that are not well maintained, maybe your customer didn't want your package with your clay bar service, so you're going to use this. It makes sense, right? A cleaner wax is going to help you in the moment. But if you're pulling those contaminations off the paint and going back into the jar with your applicator, you're contaminating the wax to some degree. You decide whether or not that makes or break your world. I don't know. It does for me because I like facts. I always like working clean. So here's the cleaner wax in a liquidable form. In a liquidable version, whether it's a cleaner sealant or a cleaner wax, I like it in the liquidable form. And then also in waxes too, or paint sealants that are not the cleaner types, they're finish types. I just like the liquidable. It just makes more sense to me. I can apply it so quickly and so evenly over the surface of the car, much easier than going back and forth with my hand over the panel, trying to get even distribution. Sometimes, even as a professional, I put too much on the applicator. When you use the DA, it spreads it evenly, uniformly across the panel. You'll waste less product. That's kind of why I like it, and I just wanted to share that with you. So there's my opinion about whether or not liquid waxes versus paste wax, which one is better. Only you can decide. I just wanted to shed some light and some potential issues of using waxes in a jar. Remember, you could be going back in with a contaminated pad and kind of contaminating the wax that you want to preserve. You want this stuff to be beautiful. You want it to be clean for you the next time you use it. So that's just some facts as I know it, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I love all of you. Hope that made sense. Until next time, be safe.